guys, Yasir Khan here, and in this video I'm going to be talking about how to hire the right salesperson for your company. Okay, so depending on the niche or market vertical you are in, you might need salespeople to bring in more business for your particular company, right? Sometimes that is the case, sometimes it isn't. If you're using inbound marketing, you probably might not need a salesperson which is going to make cold calls. Okay, but if you want to go really aggressively at it, it's always a good idea to hire someone competent to call businesses up, do the outreach, and bring business in. But the reason why I'm making this video is because it's never that easy to find the right person. Okay, if it was so easy, then everyone would be doing it, and that just isn't the case. So what really successful companies do is that they know for a fact that if they hire 50 salespeople, only 2 or 3 will be best performers, because the other ones on the team just might not be able to pull their weight for one reason or another. So I decided to put this theory to the test. Over the last, I believe, month and a half, I've hired many salespeople, and the results are very, very different from one person to another. And I saw this coming, but I didn't really see how one person could so vastly outperform the other one. And this goes directly into, the thing that you should be hiring more and more people, because unless you hire them, you will not know how they perform under pressure, what kind of sales pitches they're giving out, how they talk to other business owners, how do they talk to the prospects. Whatever a person says in an interview, they might be saying it to the best of their knowledge and abilities, but it is only when you put someone to the test do you actually understand where they stand, if that makes any sense at all. So the short answer to the question of how to hire the right salesperson for your company is to go through lots of salespeople. And that might not be the answer you were looking for, but that really is the truth. So my goal is to hire around 15 to 20 different salespeople in the next couple of months, just to see who performs really well. And then the idea here is to keep the people who are really good performers, and then unfortunately let the rest go, because ultimately at the end of the day, I am running a business, and if the numbers don't make sense and if they don't pull their weight, bring in money for the company, then it kind of defeats the purpose for them being there, right? Okay, so that said, here are a couple of other tips as to how to get the right person on the team. The first thing to understand is that you have to provide them with the training materials. Okay, you could have the best person on board, but if they don't really understand what you are about, what the company policy is, what are you selling, how are you selling it, what the unique selling proposition is, then they're not going to be able to do their job properly, right? Most of the times it is the salesperson could be really, really good, but most companies don't really provide them with adequate training, and that's when the salesperson calls the prospects and ends up coming across as kind of a telemarketer, if you will, right? The reason why they come across as a telemarketer is because they don't ask questions, they do not try to engage the prospect, they just drone on about the sales pitch. And people can tell when you don't know much about what you're talking about, and they can tell when you're acting like a telemarketer. In 2019, most businesses, as far as I'm aware of, is, they just don't respond positively to telemarketers, right? That's why you could have like 10 people calling 100 people a day, and you might not get enough traction because they're coming across as drones, and they're very monotonous, and they just aren't providing the prospect a good experience, right? A good salesperson, on the other hand, would not be monotonous. They would actually try to gauge the interest of the prospect, because they are cold calling them, right? So they're going to gauge the interest of the prospect and interest level of the prospect, and try to figure out whether they even want the service or not. And then after that, they have to enter into a dialogue where the salesperson is talking to them and then asking questions. Unfortunately, most people, they just have this script in front of them and they just drone on, and the other person just hangs up, or they say, call me later, right? So if that is happening with you, or with a company that you're working for, or with some of the people that you've hired, then know for sure that they're acting like a telemarketer and they're not adding value to the prospect when they're talking to the prospect. Okay, so please understand that if you're calling someone, if you're calling another business and you're cold calling, first of all, they don't know about you at all, and they might not even be interested. So the first thing to understand is that you have to really figure out their interest level. Okay, I talked about this a little bit, but it really is that important. That's why I keep on mentioning it over and over. Your salesperson can drone on for like 15 or 20 or 30 minutes, but if the person on the other end of the line is not interested, you're not going to get the sale. It's very simple. That's how simple it is. So the idea here is to educate your salespeople, and it doesn't matter how long the training cycle is. It could take a week, it could take 2 weeks, it could take a month. Your salesperson has to come across as someone who is knowledgeable and someone who can naturally negotiate and convince people without forcing them, coercing them into taking a decision. Okay, the prospect needs to feel as if they have a choice and that they are the ones making the decision, right? And from what I am seeing, at least, only 1 or 2 people that I've heard come, meet these expectations, and that's okay. It's always a numbers game. In business, most of the things are, related to numbers. It's almost always a numbers game. The number of customers that you can get to sign on, it's a numbers game. The staff and the quality of the staff that you hire, that's a numbers game as well. So you shouldn't worry about it. One last time, if you want to get the right salesperson, understand that you would have to hire anywhere between 10 to 50 people to see who performs the best when they're actually doing their job. People could send you the best resumes ever, but it is only when you put them into action, when you ask them to call people and call businesses and convince them to sign up, do you know how effective they are. The last thing I'd like to mention is that unless you get feedback as to how a salesperson is performing, you would not be able to improve their performance, right? Not most, but some businesses, especially small businesses, they hand out the script to the salesperson. They don't record the calls at all, and they have no idea what the salesperson is actually saying on the call, right? So whenever I hire someone new to do the outreach for our businesses, we always make sure that the calls are recorded on both ends. I make sure that I know, I can hear what my salesperson is saying, and I also need to hear what the other person is saying at the other end of the line. Only then do I know what to do in order to improve effectiveness, right? With every other thing, this process is a little involved, but when you do get that one person who knows what he's talking about, they can bring in a lot of business. And in order to keep that person, the top performer, on your team, you have to incentivize them, right? So what I do is I provide my salespeople with a base pay, right? It could be different depending on their skills and how, their experience and how long they've been in the industry. But I also provide them with monthly commission. So for my Promote Dental company, I give them a monthly commission of 10% for all the business that they bring in. And that commission gets paid out residually every single month for as long as that particular client stays with us, right? So for the salesperson, this is a huge incentive for them to perform really well. And it does work really well. But in the end, it all comes down to trial and error, okay? It comes down to whether you have communicated your needs and their responsibilities to them effectively, whether they can handle the pressure, whether they are an outgoing personality. All of it comes into play. And the simplest way to do it is to hire many people and then to qualify people on the basis of their performance. And that can only happen when you monitor their progress on the job. Okay, so I hope this helps. And as always, if you like this video, if it gave you some insight, please do like and share the video. and please comment if you found something particularly valuable, and I will record more of these videos in the next few days. Thank you so much, and talk to you soon.